your attendance. And is it on yet, Martin? Yeah. Right. Thank you, and welcome to anybody that's watching on the live stream. Hello. I don't know if that's talking to myself, but we will carry on now with the agenda. I don't have to read any of that out, Ellen, do I? It's on the.
Yes, Chair, if that would be possible. So we'd start off with apologies.
Oh right, no, I meant the preamble.
Oh,
no.
no.
Apologies for absence then. I don't think we were any. We're all here.
That's the case, Chair.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? I
None
don't
received, Chair.
Don't. Thank you. That's brilliant. The minutes of the last meeting, and that's just been pointed out to me that none of those people who were at the last meeting are now on the cabinet. So we'll just have to note those minutes as they stand. Is that right, Ellen?
Yes, that's right, Chair. You've got two sets of minutes there. The one on the 2nd of March, I think you'd be noting as no one at that meeting is present today. And then you've also got the meeting of the special cabinet held on the 25th of May, which you are able to approve.
Yeah. So can we approve that special meeting then on the 25th of May, please? Are we all in favour of that? Thank you. That's good. Item 4 then, planning environmental enforcement scrutiny review. We've got 3 of these. How do you want to play it? Damon, do you want to talk to them, or it's a bit awkward because obviously the chairs are no longer.
Shall I just take it one by one, Chair? Then
okay.
If any members have questions, I can just answer them. Okay, so I'll start with the first one, Chair. This is the planning and environmental enforcement scrutiny review. So the purpose of the report is to ask Cabinet to approve the Organisation Scrutiny Committee's review into planning environmental enforcement. So just a bit of background. The review aimed to understand how the planning enforcement team worked with environmental enforcement and other teams, understand how the planning enforcement team functioned and carried out multi-agency working, establish best practice, and identify any further improvements that could be made. So the review panel met on 5 occasions and considered a variety of information, including a report from the head of planning, which outlined the process, investigating reports. They looked at key documents such as the planning enforcement plan and planning enforcement service reports, and interviews were held with a number of officers. So the full report attached to Appendix 1 sets out in more detail the evidence gathered and a synopsis of the views expressed, including the review report recommendations, Chair. So happy to take any questions on that.
Are there any questions for Damon? Can't see anybody sat here. Oh, sorry. How do we want to progress this then? Because there are recommendations there. Lee, I know you've got a thought.
Yeah, if I could, Chair, and Damon, might be useful given where we're at in the planning of the new council plan. Notwithstanding, I know you've got another couple to go through, but it might be useful if we take the approach that Cabinet note the findings and we filter in any relevant recommendations into the development of the new council plan and the formation of the new scrutiny groups. I'm sure they'll find their home, but because the old scrutiny committees are no longer there and many of the members are no longer there to receive feedback, that might be the best way of approaching it.
Thanks, Lee. I agree with that. I think with all of the 3 reports, there's nothing mind-blowing in any of them. I think we need to look at the recommendations and feed them in, like Lee's just said, and work towards. Are we all right with that? That makes sense. So on that one, then we will try and find a place for those recommendations in the plan going forward. So that's that one, and then we're on to the item 5, which is engagement with business.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly present this one, Chair. So this is also to ask Cabinet to approve the Growth Scrutiny Committee's business engagement review. So at its meeting on 24 January 2022, the Growth Scrutiny Committee agreed to conduct a review into how the council engaged with business. So review aimed to understand how the council engage with local business, determine what would work well and what not so well, listen to the views of local business, and suggest improvements to achieve better engagement with businesses in the district. So the review panel heard from a number of stakeholders, including external businesses, a business advisor, a business consultant, and internal officers. So a full report attached at Appendix 1 sets out in more detail the evidence gathered and a synopsis of the views expressed, including the review report recommendations. Once again, happy to take questions, Chair, but I could just move into the next one, if you'd like me to the leisure provisions report.
Unless there's a question on that one specifically? No, thank you. Yeah, no, move on then.
Okay, so this is the leisure provisions for older resident scrutiny review, which was conducted by the Community Scrutiny Committee. So the review aimed to understand and assess what was being done in the district to promote healthy lifestyles and improve well-being in older residents, understand the demand from older residents for leisure provisions provided by the council, identify any opportunities to increase participation and new memberships, evaluate what had been successful, and identify room for improvement. So the review panel met on 5 occasions and considered a variety of information, including a scene-setting presentation, interviews with officers, and data from Sport England, the ONS, and the Derbyshire Observatory. The full report attached at Appendix 1 sets out in more detail the evidence gathered and a synopsis of the views expressed, including the review report recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Damon. And again, with both those, I think they are good recommendations that we can help build into stuff going forwardly into that's fine. And just at this point, I'd like to thank all the scrutiny committees and the chairs and people involved in all these scrutiny reports, and you, Damon, for compiling them. It is obviously a change of administration, and we will try and fit in as many of those recommendations as we can, because I think they're all because they were cross-party committees, and I think they all work quite well. The ones I were involved in were sort of fairly non-political. We had a good debate around things, so hopefully we can carry that on going forward. And so if we're all right with that, again, note the reports and thank everybody for their input. Thank you. That's it. Thanks, Damon. Thank you. And come on, you Blues. That's it. We hope to see you at several grounds across the country, mate. See you. Item 7, the adoption of the revised statement of community involvement, which is it's quite a long document. Ellen, are you going to present that?
Oops. Yeah, just outlining that this is a report on the proposed adoption of a revised statement of community involvement, taking account of comments that were received during public consultation earlier this year. So just a brief overview. Section 1 of the report sets out some background, clearly identifying the statutory duty that requires the production of a statement of community involvement, which in itself should set out how the council will engage with communities in both its plan making functions and decision taking functions. In terms of the local plan, it's when you're undertaking the preparation of a development plan document, you must demonstrate that you've taken account of the procedures set out in your statement of community involvement. So it is a very important document in that context, in relation to soundness of plan making. The council's current statement of community involvement was adopted in 2014, and that's been overdue for review now for a number of years. It wasn't done earlier because we're in the process of adopting the local plan, and it would have been seen to be quite confusing for the public if we were consulting on a new document. It's also enabled us to take account of customer feedback we've received in the plan making process, and we've fed that into the review. In addition to that, there's been increases in opportunities for digital engagement and social media mainly as a result of the COVID pandemic, because we had to change the way we operated consultations during that time. So section 2 just sets out that the main changes to the statement of community involvement. The previous version consisted of a number of leaflets. We've drawn it all together into a single document this time. Taking account of these increased opportunities for digital engagement, but not at the expense of the more traditional methods, because we acknowledge there are still sectors of the community who don't want to or are unable to engage digitally plan making. There's also a section on neighbourhood planning, and that's been enhanced to reflect changes in guidance. In terms of planning applications, the changes are a bit made to bring them in line with legislation in terms of who to consult, what groups of people to consult in relation to different types of planning application. So as I said, the consultation took place for 6 weeks during February and March this year. Paragraph 2.5 of the document just sets out some of the key methods that we used in consultation, and they're a good example of the kinds of methods that we'll use for future, the baseline methods we'd use certainly for future consultation on development plan documents, although we would undertake more face-to-face consultation methods in that sense. We received a total of 25 responses to the draft statement of community involvement. That doesn't sound like a lot, but we tend not to get a significant level of involvement on these types of documents. The detail of those are summarised in Appendix 1 to the report in the statement of consultation, along with an analysis and a response to the issues raised. We've taken on board those comments where we can, and that's resulted in a few main changes to the document, which are mainly around clarification, and they're in relation to who publicising the consultation bodies and the arrangements in place for consultation on listed building consent applications and tree proposals, and also signposting to other types of consent processes such as tree felling licenses. So the changes proposed have been incorporated into the version of the statement of community involvement that's set out in Appendix 2 of the report, and that's before you today. Recommended for your approval so it can be published on the council's website.
Thank you, Helen. Steve, do you want to say out, mate?
No, thank you very much for that, Helen. I mean, as you can see from Appendix 1, it went out to dozens and dozens of people and organisations. Were given an opportunity to respond. As Helen said, there were 25 responses from 11 organisations and 2 individuals, but it's only resulted in really 3 main changes, one from Dronfield Civic Society, one from somebody called Booth, and one from Historic England. That's just updated that, and as Helen said, it's gone now from 3 leaflets into 1 comprehensive document. Thank you, Chair.
You want to move the recommendations, Steve?
Yes, I'll move the recommendations. Thank you.
I'll second those. Are we all in favour of the recommendations in 1 and 2? Right, thank you. Back on, that's it. Urgent items. I've got none. Anybody got any urgent items? And then that leads us to the exclusion of the public, and I've got to move that the public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the following items of business to avoid the disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006. The category of exempt information is stated after each item. So that's the end of the public bit of the meeting. Yeah.
That's it. Are members content with the exclusion? Yes.
Thank you.